Donald Trump so wants to be president again. And for a long time, it looked like it would be. I mean, it looked like he'd be the Republican Party's candidate in the next election. And meanwhile, US President Joe Biden's been looking confused and weak. The economy's struggling. His poll numbers terrible. But suddenly it looks like even many Republicans have had enough of the drama that comes with Trump, like the brawl now over the classified documents that he took out of the White House. And then the stupid things Trump says to defend even that too. Like, the documents weren't actually classified if he simply thought they weren't.
It doesn't have to be a process, as I understand it. There's different people say different things, but as I understand, there doesn't have to be. If you're the president of the United States, you can declassify just by saying it's declassified, even by thinking about it.
Oh, please. And now a new poll for the Washington Post and the ABC says half of Republican voters now want anyone else but Trump. Anyone else. And in a matchup with Joe Biden, he was running about even with all voters. Joining me from Washington, a crack of another Washington dawn, is Adam Crichton, always bushy-tailed, US correspondent for the Australian newspaper. Adam, I really appreciate you getting up for us. I really, really do. What has gone wrong with Trump?
Well, look, it's a range of factors. As you suggested there, the polling's not fantastic. His support amongst Republicans has fallen by about 20 percentage points compared to 2020. And his candidates, his hand-picked candidates that are running for state senators in the congressional elections are not doing very well. They're struggling. And so you'd have to say if the Republicans do poorly in 6 weeks' time, that's going to reflect very badly on Trump as well. There's the fact that he's amassed more than $100 million in campaign funding, but has spent almost none of it on those Senate candidates. That's been a great source of frustration for Republicans as well. And then, just as you suggested in your monologue, there's the mounting legal cases. Honestly, there's so many cases. It's easy to forget how many. There's something like 5 or 6 different inquiries, different lawsuits into the former president right now, and any one of them could land him into serious trouble. I mean, as you suggested, the Department of Justice case against him over the documents, that's looking worse and worse all the time. He road tested his key legal defence there that you just pointed out in the clip, and even his close Republican allies basically made fun of that argument. So if that's the response of them, I mean, you've got to say it's not going to look very good for a jury or a judge.
Now, Adam, look, I'm so reluctant to let the Democrats win by what seems to be like, a series of a victor's justice, really, using their power of office to try and get rid of an enemy. That said, a number of these cases, right, is Trump talking himself into trouble with stupid talk about stolen elections and this and that. And you think, why would you put yourself in that position? He could have given back those documents, for instance, the minute they were asked for. Why fight for them? Why have the brawl? I didn't get it. And I just think people will get tired of the drama, whether it's his fault or someone else's fault. They're going to get tired.
And look, I completely agree. And he still has rallies around the country. And at these rallies, he still focuses very much on the 2020 election. I mean, it's past the middle of 2022, and many Republicans, even if they agree with him about that election, they still pragmatically want to move on and talk about something else. And indeed, there is so much else to talk about. In the US, we've got the highest inflation, of course, here in 40 years, the prospect of a recession soon. There's something like 2 million illegal migrants have crossed the southern border. There are many, many other issues that Republicans want to talk about, but the former president is obsessed with the supposed big lie, if you say, from 2020 that his election was stolen. Very few people actually believe it, and I think it's going to be a burden that that poisons his political future, at least as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, well, you can't keep talking about his past. It's got to be talking about Americans' future. Who's his biggest rival for the Republican nomination, and why would that be? I mean, I would tip, of course, it's Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, or have you found someone else?
Well, look, it's fair to say the Republicans have a much better bench than the Democrats do. Certainly Ron DeSantis, as you say, he is the favourite, but it's still 2 years out, of course. Most of the betting markets here give Ron DeSantis actually the top spot to win the Republican nomination, not Donald Trump, in 2024. But there's Glenn Youngkin, of course, in Virginia. There's Kristi Noem in South Dakota. There are many other young governors, and of course there's a whole gaggle of Republican senators, young senators who would like to run for president. So the Republicans are in a good position. The problem for them is if Trump runs for the nomination, he still has a very good chance of getting it. And then even if he doesn't win, there's a good chance that he might spoil by running as an independent. And then, of course, Republicans would lose the presidential election because they'd split the vote. So it's a very difficult situation for the Republican Party. They have to be very, very nice to Donald Trump, but at the same time, many of them don't want him to run again.
Yeah, I'm discount the argument that he's going to do Ross Perot and run as an independent, because there's one thing he absolutely loathes, and that's losing. And he would inevitably lose. I don't think he'd want to put himself up for that humiliation.